anyway, they came, the two ladies came, we were the only ones left at Liverpool Station. And I went up to them and I said, are you the Green, I learned to speak a little bit of English, and I thought my name Greenbaum, I thought my name was going to be Green Tree. And I said, are you coming for the Green Tree children? She said, no, we're coming for the Greenbaum children. I said, that's me and my sister. And they took us home.
For Honour's Sake is the new podcast from AJEX, the Jewish Military Association. And today we're delighted to be, appropriately enough, in the reminiscence room at Jewish Care's Holocaust Survivors Centre here in Golders Green. And we're joined by Henny Franks. Henny was born Henriette Grünbaum in Cologne in 1923 and celebrated her 101st birthday last June. We're delighted to have you with us here today, Henny. And as always, we'd love to start at the beginning. What was it like growing up in Cologne, in Germany, in the Weimar Republic in the 1920s?
Well, I had younger, my brother was bar mitzvah, he was 13, he had his bar mitzvah, I had my wonderful grandfather there. I can close my eyes and I see him dancing, my grandfather.
Wonderful.
He was a wonderful man. And one day, we had some family came from Sweden. And the people loved my sister, she was much younger. And I said to my mother, they would like to take her back to Sweden. My mother said, no, they're going to England. They're going all three to England. And that's what happened. I was 15 and a half nearly. And my sister was 12 and my brother 14. So he had his bar mitzvah. And my sister went with my uncle, who lived in the East End, Old Montagu Street, and she went to the Jewish school, what was they called now? JFS.
JFS, yes, the Jewish Free School, yeah.
Second to none.
Yes, still has that motto.
And I went to the Jewish school in Cologne, and that was also second to none. We had a wonderful education. We learned Hebrew, and we learned kosher cooking. It was a wonderful school that I went to, but they took it away. My brother and sister had to go to different schools. It was some rubbish somewhere.
And you wanted to go to the local textile design college. You were interested in fashion and clothing, but they didn't allow Jews?
That's right. My mother, when I left school, my mother took me, and I remember where it was. For all these years, she took me to learn about. I had the flair for being a designer, and to learn. And they said, sorry, but we don't take Jews. That was the end of it. But my mother did find me a job. She didn't want me to sit at home doing nothing, and I didn't get paid. It was just the Jewish woman still had two people working in her home, and she took me in, but I didn't get anything. She bought me a little bar chocolate sometimes.
It was like an apprenticeship.
She wanted to learn.
Yeah, it was like an apprenticeship as a dressmaker.
That I didn't. And dressmaker came when I came to England.
Yeah. So an otherwise, normal, ordinary life, you're progressing, but then
that's right.
Kristallnacht changes everything.
Yeah, well, not at that time. And I remember my mother telling me that the Cologne people wouldn't do it, they had to bring them in from Berlin. That was when she came back, my mother.
So you hadn't really, other than the issue with the textile design college, you hadn't experienced anti-Semitism in Cologne. Your life was relatively comfortable.
Yeah.
You were enjoying your job and your family.
That's right.
And for Kristallnacht, again, it wasn't your neighbours. It was thugs from elsewhere that they'd had to bring in to apply it in Cologne.
They did smash in some, because they were the people from Berlin. They didn't know us. They didn't know. They'd been told what to do, and they did it. Yeah. They smashed the glass. And so happened, it was a Friday night. So we didn't go to bed so early. But in the morning, they were after I lived in a house, like I said, they used to have a house. It belonged to my grandfather. My grandfather had 2 blocks of flats. And we lived there. Actually, I was born Turmschenswar, my grandfather, when my mother got married. There was a big block, and it belonged to my grandfather, my mother's father. And she had a flat there. But later, the children came. She moved to another block, it was smaller, that also belonged to my grandfather. And that's where we lived until we went away. Children went away. And when I came to England, to my father's first cousin, she had 4 of her own, and she took me in. They were very good to me, and their name was Danzig. And the children had 1 son and 3 daughters, and they all went in the army. The son was in the army. We were very, very proud of the son. What I remember, I remember where he went when he went to the army, because we were very. I think he did belong to you.
To AJEX, yes, I'm sure, no doubt he did.
I think he did.
Join AJEX and come and operate.
No, it's not his wife. I think his daughter, the 3rd generation, that I'm very friendly with. I think she told me they did have a medal.
I'm sure that he did.
Yeah, but the others didn't. I don't think my husband did. I never saw one.
Well, like you, I mean, if you remember back to your 100th birthday, of course, you never got your medals for your service.
No. So
on your 100th birthday, before that, we found them, or we found the replacements, and we made sure that you had them. So it's never too late. It's never too late to get the medals.
I'm very proud of them. I wore them last week.
Yeah,
we
fantastic.
had something. I wear them.
Wonderful.
I don't wear them every day.
Well, not every day, no.
I do have on my coat. I just changed codes, and I couldn't get my
your veterans badge. Yeah, we got you your veterans badge as well.
I haven't got the coat on. I'm going to go back to the thinner coat.
There you go. When the weather gets a bit warmer.
I'm very proud. But my cousin, the man, she had 1 son, and he had to go in the army. And he went to, I remember, 1721st,
the Lancers.
Lancers.
So, wow, okay, you remember, fantastic.
I remember that because we were so proud of him.
Yes, no, I bet.
He was not married at that time. He married when he came out of the army. Yeah, and a Jewish woman became my best friend.
Wonderful.
If I had any Taurus, which I did have.
Everyone had Taurus. Everyone.
There was one. They were very good to me.
Yeah.
That her husband, and I was best friend with the youngest daughter was the same age as me, and they lived. By that time, they lived all still in the West End near Baker Street, and they had a 3-bedroom house, and the youngest one had a single bed. And I had to sleep with her.
Oh, wow, okay, in the same,
but
crowded.
What's so amazing to me is people became best friends. She never complained. No. Now, my daughter wouldn't do that.
Well, it was a different age and a different generation. I mean, everybody having to make do in those times. So to recap, again, November 1938, Kristallnacht, and things start deteriorating very, very quickly for the Jewish population of Germany and other parts of Europe.
We didn't have any problem.
Yeah, and until then, but then in the situation starts deteriorating. And at the beginning of 1939, aged just 15, you're part of the Kindertransport via Holland to England. Yeah,
and we arrived in, was it now the station?
Liverpool Street Station.
We arrived at Liverpool Station, and the 2 ladies came to pick us up, but they were late picking us up. That was my sister and me. my brother came a couple of months later, so they were supposed to pick us up, but one of them, she had a younger son, he was 11. And so they were late. When we were left, wonder where else our family.
Were you panicking? Or?
So anyway, they came, the two ladies came, we were the only ones left at Liverpool Station. And I went up to them and I said, are you the green, I learned to speak a little bit of English, and I thought my name Greenbaum, I thought my name was going to be Green Tree. And I said, are you coming for the Green Tree children? She said, no, we're coming for the Greenbaum children. I said, that's me and my sister. And they took us home. So my sister went to my uncle. There was the sister-in-law. She went home with them. She had 2 sons. But they were too young to go in the army. And one of them is still alive today, and he was 11. They went to JFS in the East End. And, I don't talk about that.
So over the next sort of 3 or 4 years, are you working? You're learning English. How are you integrating into England and London? How are you finding that?
Yeah, well, first of all, I couldn't speak English. I had to learn. I spoke Yiddish. I managed with Yiddish. I used to hear my parents speak Yiddish. We spoke mostly German, and so when I came, that was my father's first cousin. So she took me to live near Baker Street, near the garden, there's Regent's Park. And she took me there in the summer that came, and she bought me an ice cream. But this is so unusual for when I heard some people suffered, some children suffered, that I can remember the ice cream, it's not money, but it was a wonderful thing that she did. My sister didn't have anything like that. My brother went into a home. First of all, he went to, all the Jewish people, all they wanted was girls to do the housework. That's all they wanted. But there were no more girls left. So the man it was a young family with a young child, so they took my brother. My brother was very nice. He was 14. He was a very nice young man. He wore those funny trousers, That he came. Anyway, they bought him long trousers. And the young man, they liked him very much. But the woman was not so happy.
Right.
Well, war broke out, and the young man had to go in the army.
Of course.
So she saw my brother, but she wouldn't keep I don't blame him for that. I don't blame her for that. The young woman with the young boy, she wanted a young boy for. And he went to live in a hostel forever.
Right, for the rest of the war, for the rest of his young life. Wow.
He did war work.
He did war work as well, yeah.
Like
many of your family. I mean, I remember reading that this uncle and aunt, they had 4 children. The youngest was the same age as you. Again, there was a son in the army, one daughter in the ATS, which we'll talk about your service in as well. And the youngest daughter went into the WAF, the Auxiliary Air Force, as well. I misread. Sorry.
No, my young dude, my sister was only 12.
Right, but there was another daughter, a cousin, I think, went into the
My cousins I lived with, they were all born here.
They were born here, yes.
Yeah. One went into WAF. The one who was my age went into the Air Force.
Absolutely. Yeah. There you go.
And
a whole family of Jews, some born in England, some Germany, all serving.
So when it came to me, they had me down as Polish.
Yeah, it's because of your mother's side and where she's come from.
I'll tell you something. I've still got my army papers.
I know, I've seen
They're falling to pieces. And I looked at them and I saw that my name, where I was born, was scratched out.
Right.
I meant to bring that. Yeah. Scratched out.
I wonder if that was maybe a security thing.
Polish.
Yeah, maybe they were.
So that's why they called me.
They called you Polish.
So anyway, I went in the army, but because my cousins all were in the army, what did I know?
Of course.
So I had a choice.
Absolutely. So this was 1941, you were 19.
No, it was, what was it, 1942.
1942, sorry. You're 19, 1942.
19, that's right.
And you join the Auxiliary Territorial Service, the ATS.
Yes, I joined the ATS.
Yeah. Now, the ATS had been established in September 1938 in anticipation of the war with Germany as a way of freeing up fighting age men for more frontline duties. It covered a number of roles.
I was about 25 when I left, and my mother came to England when I was 25.
Yeah.
So it was about 11 years I hadn't seen her. I didn't even know.
She'd been in hiding in Belgium and Italy, I think?
No, she went to Switzerland. But she went back to Belgium. And I was still in the army and went with the troops.
Yeah, well, we'll absolutely come to that because it's a fantastic story. You went over there and you found her, and we'll absolutely come back to that. Now, when you joined the ATS, the first place that you went to for your basic training to be enrolled and listen to everything else was was Nottingham, Chilwell.
Chilwell. That's right.
Now I have to say to you, Henny, Chilwell, those barracks, now called Chetwynd Barracks, are still open today. They're actually due to close in 2026, but until recently they were still being used as a mobilisation centre.
It was a very big. I learned to drive.
Yeah. When Johnny and I went to Afghanistan, Chilwell was where we had our first our first administration and everything else. So it was very big and a fantastic bit of.
Did I say that first? They put me in the cookhouse.
Yeah, I know. Again, they used to some of the roles that they gave the women. First of all, were as cooks and clerks and everything else. But you ended up at Westcliff-on-Sea as a lorry driver.
Yeah, but where did I learn to drive? I think it was, I wouldn't go in the cookhouse because I couldn't do, I don't know, something in my head is not right. I get headaches.
Right.
And so I remember when I was 14, when I went to Jewish school and we had PE. I could never do it. I did it, but I always used to get giddy, and I suffered that the rest of my life. Giddiness. I can't look up in the ceiling. I get giddy.
Yeah. So you, as I say, you at Nottingham at Chilwell, you got your driving licence.
Yeah.
And you then went to.
I can drive a tank.
I know. There you go. Unfortunately, we don't have a tank with us, but we believe you. There you go. And you got the licence, and again on your documentation.
Can I show you that? Oh, you saw the picture.
I've seen the documentation and everything else, and we're going to add those to our website when we post this. And you had a licence, and your main role was driving what they called Lister auto trucks, which were used in the ammunition factories.
Yeah, I was driving all different trucks, the big ones and
the little ones as well.
The little ones. It all depends what's available at the time, and to Let's I was wearing those. I was using the big one.
And you were based at Westcliff-on-Sea, and there were, I think you said there were lots of other Jewish women around as well at the time.
Oh, I've always had my Jewish friends. That's most peculiar, but I always found that when I first went to Westcliff, there was a lot of people like me, like come from Germany or from anywhere in Germany, and I've had my friends. And I made a mistake when we left. I had a very good friend, and we said goodbye, and I hope we see each other again. And she had no money. Well, I had somewhere to go. I didn't need money. I always had my meals. And I lent her my money, which was wrong, because I never saw her again.
Oh,
she didn't have the money to give me back.
Right.
The next time I saw her again, I met her I can see it now. I met her in the street, and she was married with her husband.
Oh, yeah, well, fantastic. Did she give you the money back? Did she give you the money back?
No, we didn't talk about that.
Fair enough. There you go.
By that time, the money didn't matter anymore to me.
So talk to me about working in the factories.
Yeah.
How did you find that experience? How were you treated? Was it very hard work? What was that like?
I don't want to show off, but I'm a magnet. I met Jewish people, and but when I first went to work, it was a factory that found me to sew on buttons of all things. And it was a bit out. I lived in the West End then. And it was a bit out of the way. And I got friendly with an English girl, was my age. And it was Christmas time. And she invited me to her home. Christmas, that's the only Christmas friend I ever had. I didn't think why I never kept in touch. But they took me home to her Christian home, Christmas.
Christmas, yeah.
And they treated me like their own. I remember it so well. They treated me like their own children with a present. And the people were very, very nice to me. But it was quite a long way from. And my family told me to buy a cake and take a cake with me, which I did.
Yeah. So it's a wonderful experience. And you clearly, so quickly, from your arrival in this country, through the war and your experiences, you're becoming, as you said yourself, you said that you felt more English than the English because of all this fantastic experience of people that you're meeting.
I had a
like a little pin badge.
A
Union
flag,
Jack.
English flag. Mm-hmm. I always wore that on my tie.
Mm-hmm.
I was more English than the English. That happened.
And that began in Westcliff. You talk about how proud you felt marching through the streets or just being in uniform. It was such a proud experience for you.
I can see it still now. Going through the street and going. But God, I've been lucky all my life. I had a good marriage. My husband. They were not, like I say, they were never poor.
No.
And like the mother had four, but he never really talked much. I think he was very, very friendly with his twin. My husband got ill and he died, and his twin died. He used to be very much he lived a long way away, but every week he used to come. And but his children, we saw them when he died. My sister and my brother, we went to the funeral. But afterwards, I didn't see them anymore. Yeah.
Now, let's talk about this post-war, because the post-war experiences are some of them are really absolutely amazing. While you were still in the army, you'd not yet been demobbed. You found out that your mother, who had been in hiding throughout the war, had moved between Belgium and Switzerland and Italy,
I went to Belgium.
Was in Belgium with her two brothers, your uncles. You had 10 days leave, and you asked to go there with the army to find her.
That's right, backwards and forwards.
What was that like? How did you find her? What was that moment of reunion like?
When I arrived with this, they put me off at the army had an office in Brussels. That's where I went. They dropped me off there, and I had to find my way to where they lived. Well, I can't remember. Somebody must have given me a lift. And here comes the British soldier in uniform. And of course, I was very happy to see my mother. My mother cried.
Yeah. So that was her exclamation. Here comes the English soldier, seeing you in uniform. It must have been an incredible moment for both of you.
And I was in touch with the office, and one of the young men came and took me out. That was the only time, just showed me a little bit of Brussels, and I spent most of my time with my aunt. My mother had a sister there. No, they were in France. The sister and her husband were in France. I think they went also back to Belgium. They were in France, and they went back to Belgium. That was her sister. She had a younger sister who was married to a Polish man, and that Polish man was sent back to Poland, but he came back to England, collected his family, had one daughter, same name as me, after our grandmother. And I come from a redhead family. Who got red hair, a brother, sisters, grandchildren, not mine. But they're still alive now. They came for my 100th birthday.
They did, yes. I remember meeting them there.
Yeah.
They'd come over for it. Wonderful.
Yeah, and I remember when I was young and my red hair. I remember very vividly. I got very ill. And I went to Jewish school, and I was in walking distance. Actually, my mother had quite a big family as well, and in Cologne. And an older nephew used to take me. He went still to school there. He was a bit older, and he used to take me to school. And one day he didn't come, but I didn't listen, and I went by myself. And we had a big crossing to go to the school from where we lived. We had to go to the crossing. It had the trains, outside. I crossed the road, and here comes the train, and I'm under it. But I had my bag on my shoulder.
Like your backpack?
Yeah, the backpack for school. And it stopped the train.
Just in time, wow.
I'm fine. I went back home. I didn't go to school. I went back home, and my mother and father were there. My father had his own workshop in the same place. And I said, I've been under the train. Because I'll tell you what my father did. I remember that very well. My father went to synagogue, and I don't know if you speak Yiddish, but it's the Geuvelburn. He made the prayer because I was left alive. It's things come. I don't think about it every day,
of course.
But sometimes things come back into my head. And that comes back to my head. My father went to synagogue and prayed. Thank you to God.
I mean,
well, that's what they did at that time.
Of course.
They called it Geumelbenchen or something, I think.
Yeah. Now, after the war, the army wanted to, obviously the war had ended, but there were still deployments, there was still much work to be done in Europe after the liberation. And the army wanted to send you to Germany, but you refused.
I refused. Oh, the army, yes, they refused. And they said, well, you're in the army. If we send you, you go. I said, well, that's different. But volunteer, never.
Was it just too close still in time and place for you to return to Germany?
It was at the time. Yeah. It was at the time. But later on, my mother's brother was there. I had no children. She and his wife never had any children. She used to help my mother with her babies, and they loved us very much. And they went back. They were in Belgium, and that's where my mother was staying with them. And when I went, I stayed with them as well. But when the war was finished, they went back. They went back to Germany because they had properties. And so I went and visited my sister and I. We used to go back every year. We were working.
So you used to go back. I was reading that you used to go back to Cologne quite regularly.
Every year,
almost as a welcome guest, as part of Holocaust education.
No, that was something else.
Right.
Yeah. No, we went back just to see our mother. My mother was there, and also we went back to see the family. They're also from France. They went back. That was her mother's sister, younger sister, and she had a younger child who was 10 at the time. Her name was Henriette.
Oh.
No, her name was not Henriette. No. Her name was Henny.
Henny.
They called me Henny always.
Of course, yeah.
Henriette was my grandmother's name.
And on times when you've gone back to Cologne, you've almost gone back as a guest, as a VIP. The mayor has invited you.
Oh,
yes. There's been almost a public occasion when you return now.
Yes, it was. And they invited all the people from the synagogue. Mm-hmm. Yes, that was very nice of them. Just now, I had another invitation from Cologne, from the city of Cologne, that's now, but I didn't go. I'm too old. I didn't go, but
I'm sure you were very much missed.
But there is somebody now. He always tells somebody he's younger than me. He's about 18 months younger than me. When he told me he comes from Cologne, he went to the same school as me. We went to the same school. When I asked him who was his teacher, then I knew he was younger than me.
Right. Wow.
And we're good friends. And he also had the invitation now. And he went, and he's 99.
Wow, well, that's absolutely amazing.
But he's an idiot.
Well, there we go. Well, still wonderful that you sort of found each other.
What he did? He was driving a car. I said, how could you do that?
Look, we're still, I mean...
He had an accident.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry to hear that.
He had an accident. He hardly ever comes now. He's not well.
Oh, well, I'm very sorry to hear that. But it was great that he can make it back, and it's great that you two have found each other with your similar stories and backgrounds here in Britain.
I think you probably know him. Oh, no, he wasn't in the army. He was younger than me.
Younger, yeah. He was slightly younger, yeah. He probably just missed. Now, after the war, did you re-begin a career as a dressmaker? Were you working, or
yes,
what happened afterwards?
I was lucky that, like I say, I'm a magnet. And my sister was working, also with Jewish people. And then I went to work there as well, Jewish, on Great Portland Street. And I was lucky. Peace took to me, and I had a very good education how to do cutting and how to do the teaching, learning. And later on, we worked somewhere else, and again, they taught me to cutting and I made patterns, and I got up to that, and also was in charge if the boss wasn't there. I was in charge. I was very happy. And I worked until I got married.
This was 1957. Now, you met Morris in, I think, at a dance?
On a dance, yeah.
At a dance. Well, where was that?
In the West End. I was talking about today. Somebody said today, I met Morris. That was also not all Jewish people. You're talking about it today.
Yes, yeah.
And I just told them just before you came that I met my husband there. Because if somebody comes, the people that work there, they're wonderful people. They always show me off to people. Henny, tell them how old you are. Because nobody believes me. And I tell them my bones know exactly how old they are. They ache.
Yeah.
And I did have an unfortunate fall. And so, that was much later. I think my husband already died.
Yeah. When did Morris leave us? Do you remember when did Morris leave us? Do you remember when Morris passed away?
Oh yes, so that's about nearly 20 years
20
ago.
years now.
Yeah, but I think I had a fall. I had a fall. I can't remember when it was. I think I spoke to my grandson, who was just on holiday for 3 months from Australia. And he told me it was 1936, because I was in hospital, I had a fall and broke my hip. I got a hip replacement.
Right.
So they came to say goodbye to me. I thought it was later, but he said, no, Gran, it was 36, so 1936. No, not 36.
Must be 86, 96, maybe?
That
96, sort of time? 96, there we go.
Yeah.
We go. Okay.
I get muddled up sometimes.
Of course.
I'm afraid I think too much. I'm a bad sleeper.
No such thing as thinking too much, but I'm sort of... look, I'm
a bad sleeper.
There you go. Well, we all probably overthink things sometimes, certainly. And there's so many memories and so many experiences that I can only imagine them rushing through your head as you keep remembering them. Yeah.
I was in the army. I had my Jewish friends.
Yeah.
And like I say, I lent them money I never saw again.
Now, today you're still so active in the community. You're with Jewish Care. We come here most days, I think, with the Association of Jewish Refugees, and of course you joined us at the Cenotaph to lay a wreath
You found
in November.
out when I came to England.
Yeah.
I've got all your papers.
Yeah, I see. So you gave. I remember when my colleagues first met you.
Yeah.
We got those copies of your army book and your driver's license and everything else. And we're going to put copies of those up on our website when we post this.
The reason I phoned you, I wanted to know. I wanted to know because they had to pay £50 to England. Can you imagine at that time, £50?
A lot of money back then.
A lot of money.
Yeah.
They had to pay £50 for each child, and there were 10,000
for the Kindertransport. Yeah.
10,000 of us, the Kindertransport.
That was what the families had to pay to get them all.
I think the family that you went to had to pay.
Oh right,
my family
funding it.
They couldn't afford it.
No.
So I wanted to know who paid that. But there were three of us, £150. I wanted to know who paid that. I've always wanted to know, but didn't know who to ask. And then I saw somebody wrote in the Holocaust Center. Now this girl, she's beautiful outside and beautiful inside.
Well, she's so helpful to us, Sarah Jane Burstein from Jewish Care.
Thank you.
Making sure you have your lunch. That's fantastic. We're fine, thank you very much. Yeah, that's good. We're good, thank you. There you go. Yeah, it won't be long.
She's beautiful inside and outside.
Absolutely. Now, so you asked the Association of Jewish Refugees to find out who had paid your fare.
Somebody did that, and she put it in the English. What we get every month, the English paper.
Yeah.
Jewish paper.
Yeah.
And I saw she had one of your there, and she had also, she put, if you want to know what happened to you, get in touch. And that's what I did.
Yeah. And did you find out?
Yeah, I got in touch with you, and you found me all my papers.
Yeah.
Who paid the money? I want to know who paid that £50. It was the Jewish people in England who paid that.
It was the absolutely.
I wanted to know.
Of course. It was so important to understand that connection and understand how it works.
And I'm a giver as well.
Of course. You were saying you still keep a purse with money for charity, for tzedakah.
For charity, I put it in the box.
Absolutely.
But I did give money. I wrote out a cheque for £100 when the war started in Israel. The Jewish soldiers.
Yeah.
I think I was the only one.
Oh.
But straight away to join the Jewish soldiers, I wrote out a cheque for £100 and I gave it to Jewish Care. That because I didn't know where to put it. Now if I give it to Jewish Care,
they'll make sure it goes to the right welfare
put them more money
and the right
to
charity.
It.
Absolutely.
I gave it to Jewish Care to give it for the soldiers in Israel.
Of course, there you go.
That's what I did.
Yeah. Now, Henny, when my colleagues first met you a few years ago, they gave you the AJEX plaque. When I met you on your 100th birthday, we made sure that you got your medals and your Armed Forces Veterans Badge.
Jewish Care did that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, so it's been we always like to give those that we interview, our podcast guests, something relevant, but you've got so much already. But I think I found something that I hope you're going to like. As well as the 250,000 women of the ATS who did so much on the home front during the war, one of the other great contributions was by a Jewish man, Abram Games, a graphic designer who created so many of the posters at that time promoting health and recruitment and morale throughout the military itself and indeed the country. And one of his most famous posters was a recruitment poster for the ATS.
The one that took me?
And, well, we've got you a reproduction of it, a framed reproduction of it, which I hope Now I don't think he based it on you, but I've seen the photos of you in the ATS, and it doesn't look the hair and everything else. It's pretty much like you. So I hope that's something you can keep as a memory of everything you've done for this country, for our community, and for supporting AJEX over the years.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you.